Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be talking about the Washington Wizards. If you guys didn't know, when I first moved to Maryland, I don't live in Maryland. My folks still do. My dad's actually retiring, so he's about to leave. My mom and sister, either way, moved there. That following spring was the lottery, which we won and got John Wall. Very fond years of my life are the Wizards. Now, I've said this before. I'm so happy we're rebuilding, and I live down in Miami now. I cover the Miami Heat and do multimedia journalism for Hoopside. And today we'll be talking about who will the Wizards draft with all their draft capital. They have the 6th pick, the 18th pick from Memphis, the 32nd pick, and the 40th pick from Phoenix. So what do I think is going to happen? I think they'll probably move one of those seconds, maybe both of them. I expect them to probably draft 2 guys, maybe 3. They just don't need all that salary. Like, it's not like they have a bunch of like space, but it's just more so I don't think they're gonna expend all that draft capital on this draft class. And what would the Wizards be thinking about potentially if they were gonna go ahead? If they were going to go ahead and make sure that they could be a, I guess, good rebuilding team? Well, I think the most important thing is that they need a big man. Look, Alex Sarr killed it the end the second half of the year. All right, he was a really productive player, showing his ability, and I think his potential. I think comparing him to Jaren Jackson Jr. would be like putting a lot of expectations on him, but that type of big man who's a floor spacing 7-footer, who's more of a power forward, who isn't a great rebounder, but can guard arguably every position. So they need to bring somebody in who's really good at rebounding, who's really good at setting screens, and can be the offensive guy. So it can kind of be like a yin-yang situation where the defense is Sarr and the yang is offense. That's why everybody's saying Derek Queen, baby, Derek Queen. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm from Baltimore, and hey, when I saw my boy Derek Queen at the combine, I asked him, what you get at hip hop? He told me the extra crack with a half and half, aka an Arnold Palmer, baby. I'm like not even kidding, but I didn't have that on camera because that's like not thing, but he's a good guy. Now the problem and the fears that people have with Derek Queen, which I understand, because if you don't draft Queen, potentially the other option is Maluach, but then I think that could be even a bigger problem, as then you would have, I'm not saying that Alex Sarr is an unproven 3-point shooter or streaky, but if to see the end of last year, he put it together. I mean, on the year he shot 40% from the field, and that's something that I think is, obviously, he was a rookie. It wasn't like, you don't really have a true floor general, but 7 foot, 205 pounds he's listed at. I want to show you guys his stats as of post All-Star break. 40% from the field in 25 games, 31% from 3 on almost 6 attempts per game. But if you look even closer, he had this stretch between February and March where he was shooting like 6 or 7 threes a game at like 34, 35%. Still like 40% from the field. He's just like really not good at inside. So I just think he's a little, again, he's your defensive guy. Now you need an offensive guy. And everybody's going to go ahead and say, how about Derek Queen? And I don't have a problem with Queen. Now my thing is that we have multiple picks here. All right. And for the Wizards in our second, I think you can either go, and I think the expectation is Derek Queen, but if you really like one of the guards here, by the way, small point guards aren't a thing anymore. If if you look at all the best point guards in the league, they're like 6'3", 6'4", and taller. So if you truly like Kasparis, Jeremiah Fears, or Yagor Demon, I think that's something that you're going to have to consider taking with the 6th pick. And then with the 18th pick, you go and get a big man. Now, you could try to package your picks and trade up then, which would allow you to maybe get an Asa Newell. Granted, he's kind of going to give you the same developmental problems as Alex Sarr. You could even try to trade back to get Queen, or just go with Sorber, or just, you know, sign a free agent or trade for somebody to be that Yang center. But I think if you feel like you need to find that playmaker, especially with the reports that are coming out from, I believe it's James Barlow, that they're looking to potentially trade Jordan Poole, I would consider with the 6th pick drafting that jumbo playmaking guard who has size and court vision, as they would like a point guard who can create for others and develop into the long-term starter and corner block at that position, which I think Yak Jonas has like a little bit of Tyrese Halliburton in his game, and he can play on or off ball. And I think I know there's athleticism and defense questions and turnovers with him, but I think all of his skill sets are easier to fix, while Jeremiah Fears needs the ball a lot more in his hands. And I don't know, like, even if it pans out, I think if they both pan out, Kasparis has the higher ceiling. So now moving on to the rest of the picks, like we said, let's say they go Queen there at 6. At 18, then they're probably looking at maybe like a Nolan Traore, or I don't know if they go Walter Clayton. He's just, I think, a little bit out of their timeline. Ben Seraph would probably be someone. Maybe a Jace Richardson. But they would definitely look for a point guard to create for others. Now, what if they go ahead and get themselves a point guard with the 6th pick? They could look to draft a Jean Berenger, maybe Thomas Sorber, or a Nick Clifford is there. Maybe they go and get Rasheer Fleming, who's a 3-point shooting, like, wingspan beast. Another guy is Maxime Renaud, but who's another Frenchman. So put the 2 Frenchmen together. That technically would be legit yin and yang. But yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that one if you're the Wizards. With the latter picks, man, if they take anybody, I just think they would just swing for the fences. So whoever's the highest potential guy that falls into the 2nd would be who they take. Maybe a Bogojub Markovic. Maybe a... They're like really a Michael Ruzic. It is a lot more of swings in there. So what are your thoughts?